It's beautiful.
You finished? Take your seat, please.
I remember the scene quite well because first off, it was in a space which was quite awe-inspiring out of all the spaces in which we were actually filming. I remember when I discovered it for the first time, I was quite taken aback by the lights. It was one of those scenes where we tried it the first time in the script. It was just that Sam enters the space and then he heads to his exhibition throne, so to speak.
We were filming this scene, you coming to your throne where you'll be exhibited, as it's written in the screenplay. And I was noticing that it's doesn't say anything, you know, about you, about your character. And I thought that at this moment I had to trust you, to give you, you know, the possibility to do whatever you want. And you started jumping and playing with the lights, and I found it very wonderful, you know, and I wasn't sure if it's too much or not, as always when we are on a set, you know, but I thought it's better. And since we already secured the sample shot with you, you know, crossing this place, and I told myself, let's have another variation. And in the editing, I found out that it was really better, and you did what you wanted. This is what I remember from the shooting.
Yeah, and I think it was actually slightly intimidating that you gave me that freedom, and it's a big space. I think we did a couple takes, and I think it was the first take you liked it and you're like, okay, do that again. So I'm like, what did I do? And then you were asking me not to hurt myself because it was a concrete floor and it was quite strong. Anyway, I'm glad it worked out nicely, and thanks again for the freedom you gave me in that scene. I thought it was I mean, ultimately watching it again, obviously with the lighting and with Amine's music on top of it, it's truly an experience.
You said that you wanted the music to accompanying the walk of Sam towards his throne, but I never imagined that it's gonna be like this. It's very contrasted. The colors are wonderful. It was not a walk. It was kind of a dance. He was dancing, choreographing all his movements, and all the contrast coming from when he's on the corridor, seeing all this Baroque painting, and then coming to this installation where lights are coming from all the places and this blue dark color. So it was very inspiring. But I remember that when we worked on the script, we kind of listened to some classical music, and you said that you wanted something energetic but still classical. But when I saw the scene, I was like, wow, this is very contrasting, because we have this corridor with the classical Baroque painting and then this modern installation of art. So I was like, yeah, let's try also in the score to have those elements from Baroque music and electronic or more modern music. So the idea was like create this dancing music, but based on classical colors and modern colors. And then, yeah, we had it. And then the thing is also in the journey of the character, emotional journey, it's the first time he experienced this. He's still at a point where he's surprised, discovering what is this place. And the scene before also, he's in front of the museum seeing this huge poster with his back. So he's like, am I gonna be a star? He's discovering and wondering what is gonna be, and thinking, walking toward his throne, thinking that he's a throne, and not yet a prison. So yeah, the music is joyful. We wanted to have this joyful, dynamic, pushing him toward his choreographed walk toward the throne.
As I said in the script, it was maybe 3 sentences. It was a very short scene saying that Sam is exploring the place, Sam is walking through the corridors. When we started the preparation. I knew that the places will inspire me. So I remember, Chris, when we were in this museum and we visited this corridor, and the thing with shooting in a museum, which is very complicated, is that you can't touch anything, you know. And when you have a crew and when you are a director in general, you want to conceive, reconceive, revisit the place with the light, with the set design. And in a museum, you can do anything of this. You can't even, you know, be close to any work of art than you know, I don't know how many centimeters. There was the guard of the museum in this day with us, you know, and people watching us in the with the cam, you know. I knew that the part where he is exhibited will not be in the museum because there is a lot of action, extras, and the fight. What is wonderful with this scene, that it's set in 2 different countries. The beginning is in Brussels and the end is in Tunisia, you know. So we enter in Brussels, and this is the magic of editing. You know, we were faced by this thing, how to make this continuity believable on the set and with the lights. And just, I remember when we discovered the place in Tunisia, I mean, it's set in a small village, and it was, you know, abandoned, and we were thinking together how to make it look like a prestigious museum, which was not, you know. The place was so abandoned and in a very bad shape.
This scene is one of my favorite scenes because it just feels that it's like the magic of cinema in terms of how, like you were saying, it's just like few sentences and then at the end it's a whole dance and performance that was given birth to after throughout the process. It was crazy for me to have so many places to connect and to find a continuity in them. And then, I don't know, I felt that having this space that is not the museum was like giving us the total freedom of creating things that were, of dealing and creating new spaces and forming them and shaping them the way we wanted to. Yeah, and the nicest moment was to see Yahya just start to interact with that space and use it in a different way than just how it was conceived to be.
When I saw this space, I was like very happy because I knew that I'll conceive my own museum. I'll conceive my own work of art. So when he goes, you know, from this corridor and he goes through this reversed mirror where he sees his back, you know, this, it's in Tunisia. And I discovered, by the way, now since the movie, you know, screened in some places in the world, on internet, people are putting some references, you know, and I discovered that there is a painting by René Magritte. I think the title is Not to be Copied, is exactly in the same composition, a guy looking to his back on a mirror.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised because we shot in the museum where you have all the Magritte, you know, and I visited this museum, you know, I thought I know all the work of Magritte. And then I found out that recently that this painting is not in this museum. It's in Rotterdam, in another place. I wanted in the scene after, when the girl he loves, Abir, came to the museum, we see immediately where she is, that she is close to his place. And at the same time, I wanted to reverse her bun, you know, so she can see herself from behind. And in my head, it was not a reference to Magritte work, but to Hitchcock in Vertigo. You know, you have this scene with Kim Lovak looking to her painting. So I told myself, Hitchcock, it's a classic, you know, Vertigo is a classic movie. And nowadays, the installation would be more, you know, let's say with the screen and stuff like this. Yeah, all this to say that I had a lot of fun to think and to create my own museum. When we visit this place with Chris, we talked about to have a light sculpture, you know, because I thought that this place is, in my head, I tried to tell a story about this place. All the European museum or old castles, old administrations. So you have this huge, aspect of architecture. And then in those space you have basement and some hidden places. And since I love the image of a basement, a dark place where you can store the things that you don't want to show, but in the same time we are in the space that shows things. So you have to go through all the museum to find the main piece, the most controversial piece, because when you have a controversial thing, you put it in the basement,
Like, to me, it was more, I don't know, making it look like you're entering into a gate, into a different dimension, or it has something of a prison, but also like being in a different life or dimension.
It has, I when I saw the scene, it was for me like it was in a spaceship or someone like coming from wherever. And I must say something, because what you had just said, Kaouther, I was completely blown up when Kaouther told me that those installations are a complete imagination of coming from her and with the work with the art director and Chris. So I was completely blown up, because I was like, no, that couldn't be, because it's such a real art. I mean, a modern graphic artist, that I was like, wow, what is this?
A lot of dimension to this place, and you were mentioning in the music the mix between Baroque, classical, and electro music. And this place, since it's an old winery, and it has something very, old, but in the same time, I wanted, to imagine it as a new church, kind of church also, because it's like this, with this architecture. So I thought that maybe I have to put not a cross at the end of it, but something that remind us, how you call it, the electrical circuit with lights. So we designed this with the set designer. I gave her images and references with the light to make an electric circuit, as if it across, So you have also in the scene this mixing between classical and Baroque that you have in the music.
But the paintings in that space, the Roberto Ferri, I actually started appreciating, because obviously Sam Ali doesn't care for art in the film, but when you take some time to look at these paintings, they were quite wild also. I mean, they added something beautiful to the space, and we catch a glimpse of it in the beginning of the scene when Sam is coming into that space, and we see it kind of to the right, and it's actually quite nice. I don't know the name of the piece that we see when we walk in.
The Roberto Ferri work, I discovered it, by accident, and he's this great contemporary Italian artist that pays homage to all the Renaissance beauty, He paint beautiful and tortured, in a way, bodies. And when I saw his painting, I contacted him directly. I told him, I'm creating a museum and I want to exhibit your work in my museum. And he was really wonderful. He gave us the rights, and we reproduced his work in this part of the imagined museum. But there is something else. In the beginning of the scene, when he goes through this long corridor, when we scouted this corridor, I fall in love. I love corridors, like all filmmakers, I guess. The day of shooting, when we arrived, the day before, there was a pipeline problem in the museum. So they took many of the painting in this corridor. And if you look carefully, you will notice a humidity machine, ugly white machine in the right, that didn't have the right, to remove, So I was sad. You can't imagine how I was sad. And finally, we had to decide, should I choose another part of the museum or I stick with my first choice? So we finished it by shooting there. In the beginning, this scene when he enters and you have this guard of the museum, for me, I did it, it's just like his first day of work, because we see him earlier in the movie when he works in those little baby chick factory, and he's, arriving shirtless without a tattoo and changing his clothes. So I thought it can be a very good parallel, you know, going to work, but the kind of work is changing in a way. And then in the preparation, I thought that it's really not very interesting that he goes through all this museum shirtless, because, you know, in general, I noticed it when you have this kind of workshop in art, in museum, you have this nude, you know, workshop, how to paint a naked body, you know. They have all of them this kind of bathrobe. And I was thinking, it can be wonderful if they give him a robe, you know. And I thought maybe, I told myself you know, a backstory to this robe, you know. This museum, they have only a robe for women, you know, so that's why it's in silk. So they didn't, you know, choose another kind of robe. So all this to say that I wanted this blue silk robe, you know, to put it inside this museum. What I love the most, that this scene, we can think that, is he serious? Is he dancing, you know? And then we understand that he's teasing the guard, you know. So you have this kind of humor coming, you know. We understand why he's doing this, to say, I'm cool, I'm discovering the place, you know. And I thought ultimately to befriend with this strict, you know, very rigid guard, that at the end he's telling him, you finish it, okay?
Who incidentally is interpreted by Nadim Shahruha, who's the executive producer. So
Exactly.
it's funny. What is the name that you gave to that piece that you added to that scene? It has a name, but I forgot what it was.
I call it the museum or something like this, but the style, I think Kaouther gave it like a birth to a style, which is electro baroque, and I thought it's quite sexy to name this style electro baroque.
But I thought it's a style, you know. My knowledge in music are so limited, so I told myself, it's electro baroque. I thought it's a genre, you know.
You gave a birth to
I love the idea, you know, the mixing between baroque and electro. So it doesn't exist. I invented it.
I think, yeah, probably. I think when I saw this scene, this robe gave you kind of a cape of a hero. It's kind of a cape of, I don't know, super Avengers hero or something like that. So
exactly, and then therein lies the paradox. You know, he really discovers quite soon thereafter that it's not a throne, but it's rather a pedestal from which he's humiliated.